There's no longer white-collar jobs. They are nowhere to be found. The population is increasing on a daily basis, and the government cannot provide all the needed jobs for the bulging youths.
It's the doctor that the patient has to get a prescription for. The reason is that when the patient comes, the patient gets a card and is directed to see the physician.
Not that I mean to undermine polytechnics, they do a good job, but university education is actually more valuable.
Hello viewers, welcome to another edition of Crossfire, reaching you from the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria, ACNNTV. I am Blessing Gochuku. Crossfire, as you know, treats controversial topics surrounding the society. This week, we are looking at the administrative sector, and our topic is employment and entrepreneurship, which among them can help curb poverty in the society. I have in the studio to discuss this topic Mr. Chinedu Felix Opara. He is a farmer and also the managing director of CF Edu Consults. He will be speaking from the perspective of an entrepreneur. Also, Mr. Obidiegu Chukwudi. He is a civil servant, currently working with Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment. He will be speaking from the perspective of an employee. So I would like to start with you, Mr. Chinedu. What is your view concerning this topic?
Thank you for having me in the studio this morning, Blessing. Okay. It is quite an interesting topic to talk about entrepreneurship because it's one of the forces that have been identified to drive our economy. You will agree with me that in the world we live in today, there's no longer white-collar jobs. They are nowhere to be found. The population is increasing on a daily basis, and the government cannot provide all the needed jobs for the bulging youths. So, talking about entrepreneurship at this time is quite really interesting for young people, especially like me, to actually begin to identify that this is another sector that provides livelihood for our teeming youths.
Okay, thank you very much. So, coming to you, Mr. Chukwudi, what is your view concerning this topic?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's, as I said, it's really a very wonderful time to have this kind of discussions. It's a time in our life that youth are supposed to have a reason for everything. As much as we love our regular activities, white-collar jobs are not really obsolete. It's still viable. It's just that it's limited to some people to get to. So that's why entrepreneurships are actually expanding. But with the limited resources we have as white-collar jobs, working in government offices is really wonderful. It gives you opportunities to actually actualize a lot in the offices. It's vast, it's open. It's as long as bankers, government workers, administrative workers, admin officers in different fields. Do you understand? It gives us the ability to open up and be the best we can be. As good as entrepreneur is, it cannot go away from that. We also in the white-collar jobs, they need banking sectors, they need us for investments, they need logistics, they need management, they need admin. There are rules, there are laws that need to be followed, and that's where white-collar jobs or government offices come to play. So this is a wonderful topic to talk about. I'm really excited to talk about it. We have really wanted to have a situation where young people can actually sit down and talk about jobs. So it's really wonderful to have me, and I will give the best I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that view. So with your view, why do you choose the government job? What is the benefit?
All right.
Why do you choose to be a civil servant?
Okay. Now, the benefits, we're talking about the benefits of government jobs. It's the best, it's the best time for you to actually work in a government. It gives you vast opportunities to experience a lot in the field. You have the connects you want, you have the connections you want, you have the ability to work in safe and controlled environment. You open up yourself to much more opportunities. There are training, there are workshops you go to, and you find yourself in a situation whereby enlightened people, you sit down and you have a vast knowledge of how ideas are brought into the government. Especially for us working in the government, you find yourself in the throes of politics. You sit down and you see someone, you bring your ideas into the government, it executes plans for you to establish a certain deal in the government. In the other administrative positions, if you find yourself in a situation where you are opportune to make laws and make things right, it's a wonderful time for you. You find yourself, you earn more respect, you work in a place that opens up plenty of things for you. Most of us that love technologies and computers and the rest of them, you find yourself sitting in an office full of people, you have respect of your colleagues, you need to talk with people that understand you. You learn as you work. You work as you learn. Now, there are people above you, there are bosses, there are directors that you know ideas comes from every day. There are chain of command that leads you. You grow up in a certain way, you learn in a certain way, you move in your positions to the extent that you find yourself in situations where you make policies and you implement plans for people. So I have always wanted to be a government worker from when I was a kid. I've always loved the idea of putting on a suit on a very good day, going to work and just have a good time, have interactions with people.
All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, Mr. Chinedu, with his contribution, he has just stated all the benefits for being a civil servant. Coming to you now, some people find themselves going into entrepreneurship because there are no jobs. I want to know, why do you choose to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, from my own personal perspective about entrepreneurship, first of all, I see anybody who decides, to be an entrepreneur as somebody who is business oriented. And by being business oriented, one of the fundamental things life offers us is to keep living. And how do you keep living? Keep earning a living. And you can say some people chose that field because they didn't actually see jobs. And that is the aspect that you can now begin to bring in innovation into, that word, entrepreneurship. Why I chose to be an entrepreneur is because I felt that as a young man, there is more that I can offer to the society. Because let me take it from the Bible perspective. There is a place in the Bible, 2 Corinthians chapter 12 or so, where the Bible talked about gifts of the Holy Spirit. So what that tells us is that for every individual, there are inherent skills that God has given us. And it's for us to develop that. Most times you find out that people who are in the civil service are dormant people. Sorry to say, but that is how it is. Because you have skills. There are things that God has placed in your hands for you to have, be able to use your head and drive initiatives. But because you are in a sector that is controlled by certain rules and certain bureaucracies and certain laws and all that, you are not able to function effectively. But being an entrepreneur, it means you're taking the risk. You're taking up an initiative. You want to service a need that the people demand. You understand? You want to be able to provide certain needs that will help the society, but in return, you're able to make some profits from it. So I see that as a sector or possibly a platform that you can leverage on and do what you want to do at your own time, do what you want to do at your own pace, live how you want to live without nobody controlling how you do that. So it's self-satisfactory. And then again, it gives you that joy to begin to distinguish between that thin line of success and failure. You're able to measure up yourself. You're able to identify the kind of goals that you are to set and at what pace that you set them. So if you want to begin to look at the two, job being in the civil service or working as a civil servant and then being an entrepreneurship, I think even till tomorrow I would continue to choose entrepreneurship because it's a platform, it's one area that I think that if any young person begins to look at those skills that God has given you, you are able to develop those skills through entrepreneurship.
Okay, thank you very much. But just quickly, according to you, you said something. You said the civil service, you see them as dormant. I just want you to very quickly just throw more light on that point. Just portrays on that point.
I'll just paint a scenario, right? So I'm in the civil service as probably an administrative officer. And of course, I come in the morning at 9. I sit in the office. Probably what I'm to do that day is to sign in. My boss is around. My boss expects me to be in the office from 9 to 5. But what are we doing in the office? Just carry a file upstairs and come back. And then I continue to press my phone. Otherwise, I go back to my computer and start playing Candy Crush or whatever, waiting for time to go for me to go home. Am I not being dormant? If I am on my own, knowing fully well that time is money, I'll begin to think of what again to do with my time. And in the process of thinking, I'll begin to identify other areas that can help my business grow. You don't do that in civil service. You look up to your boss. Your boss determines how you live. Your boss determines your time. So if you are a young person and you actually want to make a difference in terms of seeing how you can impact in the society that you find yourself, even though you want to make money from it, you dare not do that in the civil service because there are laid down rules that you need to follow. So that is why I consider them as being dormant.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, quickly, Mr. Chukwudi. When he was giving his points, I noticed that you were nodding your head in disagreement. So I would want to know if you are in agreement of his own view concerning the civil service.
Well, according to what he said, it makes me laugh when people say things like that. You know, assumptions is a very wonderful thing. You can assume things, very wonderful. I won't take it from him. There are dormant people in the civil service. That's not far-fetched. But the assumptions that people actually come to work and don't do nothing baffles me a lot. Because I am in the system. I stay in the office 9 to 5. Yeah, that's the truth. Sometimes you overshoot that budget. That's what people don't forget, that called schedules of appointments. Once you're given a job, you come to work on Monday morning, you pick up your schedule of job duties that day. There is no way that 10 people in the office sits down and becomes dormant. There are people that are dormant. There are younger staff, there are level officers, there are lower level officers that their job schedule gives them more time to actually play with their own time. Then there are other level officers that actually don't even have the time to actually sit down for 1 second and check their WhatsApp messages. Because at that point in time, you're moving from one meeting to another, one policy to another, one environmental protection to another. Especially, since we are doing the government, I would have moved to the banking sector, but let's do the government still. Even at that point in time, imagine you saying that a director in Ministry of Labor and Employment sits in the morning 9 to 5. I don't know if you're understanding it. He has been gotten to the level of a directorship. You can't have time to actually sit down and check your mail or check your messages because you are scheduled to do a meeting after meeting that involves policies that entrepreneurs can actually key into. Now, even to the point that the government has made it easier for us. If you find yourself that you have more time, you can actually invest your less time in agriculture. That's what they said. Now, there are people, that's what I started. I said there are people that are actually labeled dormant. If your job is to move files from one office to another, if there's no files to move, of course you wait until there's a file for you to move. But those files that has been moved is being worked on somebody. So as schedules are being given, jobs are being done, executions are being done. People stay in the office till 8 in the evening. I have stayed in the office till 8 and 9 in the evening. I wasn't sitting down. I was busy working on a policy document that invests in some other ideas that people will key into. So it makes me laugh when people say that we are dormant in the service. We aren't. So it's beautiful that we like the fact. I can tell you consecutively that as an entrepreneur, I can stay at home and won't go to my shop because I have boys working for me. And I can call it being dormant. Or you are a farmer and you just sit at home. You plant your seed, you're waiting for it to grow. You don't need to go to the farm and look at your seeds growing. You sit at home and you wait. So we can't call it being dormant. At that point in time, you have a job you're doing. You switch it around and you move something else. So we don't have a specific reason to say that another person is dormant. There are one or two people that might be a little bit less time for their hands. They have less time in their hands and more time in their hands. So that's the discrepancies.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us a detailed explanation to this. Thank you both for your contribution so far. So viewers, we shall be going on a short break. Stay tuned and don't go anywhere.
Hello there. Have you ever wondered why Jesus spoke in parables? What do you make of the word parable? Do you find it hard interpreting parables on your own? Don't worry. We have answers to those questions on Parables. Parables is a program that brings to bear what parable means and how it affects our day-to-day lifestyles, the church, the individual, and the society at large. Join me, Nzubechi Frank, as we explore the significance and the innate meaning of each parable of Jesus Christ. Coming to you every Saturday, 1 to 1:30 p.m. with repeat broadcast on Sundays, 7 a.m., Tuesdays, 3:30 p.m. and Thursdays, 7 a.m. from the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN. God bless you.
You're welcome back to Crossfire. For sponsorship, advert placements, and to be an ACNNTV Kingdom Investment Partners AKIP, please call the displayed numbers on your screen. To view more of our exciting programs, please visit our website at acnntv.com. Okay, we're still discussing on this topic, entrepreneur and a white-collar job, which among them can help curb poverty in our society. Okay, I would like to continue with you, Mr. Chukwudi. As a civil servant, what is your contribution to the society? How do you contribute to the society?
Well, permit me to say this. We can never do without each other. That's one rule that we know. There's no way an entrepreneur, a businessman, can actually succeed without the policies of the government. And there's no way the government can work without entrepreneurship. My input in this, how do I contribute to the economy or something? It's a basic analysis of you asking, how do we bring ideas into the economy? We might not be able to bring in products, we're not able to bring in goods, we're not able to bring in services, but what we can do is bring in policies. In as much as that youths or young people like us working in the government should probably have more strength, use our strength in more efforts, just like the entrepreneurship. It's a wonderful thing to have entrepreneurs around us. Without them, we won't have what we have. But without our policies, they won't be able to execute their plans. So the ideas we have is that we know the concept of an entrepreneur. Just like young people, I think like an entrepreneur, but you have to work like a civil servant. Do you understand? For me to give you a policy, I need to understand, how do I buy a new car, for example? How do I ship it in? And I realized that shipping agencies is a very expensive thing for you to do. So what do? You bring in a policy that makes you able to invest in entrepreneurship, thereby making our business look good, by making our business successful. The farmers in the field, you can make fertilizer easier for them by the policies that Ministry of Agriculture is bringing, other government agencies. There are a lot of places. My department in my office is Skill Development and Certification Department. The department deals basically on skills development. We develop skills all over the 36 states. We make sure that people invest in their own skills. There are people that come into our offices that don't have funding to actually invest in the ideas they have already. So how do we do this? We invest in their own. We give them funds. We enable them to expand their own. And there are people that are always in the streets that don't know how to do it themselves. There are teenagers in places in the north, in the east, in the west. They don't have what they do to themselves. So we created skill upgrading and vocational training centers for these people to go learn a trade or learn a skill and come out. So this is our little policies that I can tell you from hand that I have been invested in, and I have been able to give a little bit of knowledge on what I can give.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, Mr. Chinedu, according to him, as a civil servant, they empower people. You are into agriculture. I want to know, how do you contribute to the society, to the economy of the society? How do you contribute?
Okay, so basically when you talk about what we do as entrepreneurs, I think I like to always differentiate the two. So you have the SME, small, medium enterprises, and then you have what I call IDE, innovation-driven enterprise. Now, the two are actually quite different, and that is why I also like to, when I talk about entrepreneurship, to, break it down, because they are on different levels. Okay. Now, SMEs are like service providers. When you go around communities, people providing needs like restaurants and dry cleaners and all what have you. These people are servicing the needs of people, but directly contributing to the economy of our country, right? Because the money they make, they go back to buy fuel to power their, businesses, and the fuel stations pay taxes to government, right? So they might not really be paying direct tax to government. They buy NEPA bills and service their businesses with that. I can go on and on and on to tell you things that we do that contribute to the economy. As a farmer, the land that we use, we pay some rent on it. The water that we use, we pay to have those water. It's not just because they are natural water. You think because they are natural water, we just do that. For us to take our products to the market, we pay some form of revenues to the government to allow us come into, the market space. The transports that we use, we fuel the vehicles that drive those things. So somehow, you find out that the activities of an entrepreneur directly contributes to the economy of our nation. So that is why I always say that when you separate the two of them, the innovation-driven enterprise, that they look at global markets, yes, of course, but then the small, medium enterprises that services the need of the immediate communities, they are jointly contributing to the economy. And I don't think that if you take away business from our country, that so much will, because this is like the driving force of the economy. This is like people who directly remit revenue to the government through their daily activities. So for us, even as we are doing our farming activities, there are several ways that I already outlined them, that we remit revenues to government, not just because we are making money for ourselves. Even when we make the money, we still somehow patronize government as well, probably by ways of maybe going to buy food in shops that pay direct tax to government again, and maybe other things that we do even to cater for our own needs. So I think that entrepreneurs contribute directly to the growth of our economy.
Okay, thank you very much. We understand that they contribute to the economy according to all what you have stated. But we cannot take away the fact that there are some business that do fail. Business are failing. Some people, you find out that some people start a business, they are not able to finish up. I want to know, what are the challenges you encounter during as an entrepreneur?
I think it's one thing that is peculiar with business. Business is associated with risk. And the risk being that possibly that you didn't assess the market very well. Like from my experience, when I started farming, I do fish farming, I do poultry, I do vegetables and plantain. And when I started my business, I won't say I didn't have enough experience, but then I was thinking like one entrepreneur that could just have so many people do my work for me and I balance back to do the supervision. It doesn't work that way for an entrepreneur. You need to do the dirty work at some point, so that you're able to make sure that things go. Now, if you're not able to calculate the risk very well and able to measure your successes, there's every tendency that you will lose money. And when you lose money, one thing is certain. Two things actually are certain. Either you crawl back from the crumbs, or you fall out of the business. It happens to every business person. Now, things that could cause that, for me personally, maybe I will share from my experience. When I started the business, in order to maximize profits. Fish, actually. So they told me that there's this particular feed that I need to give to my fishes, and then they will, budge and have weight, and people that are coming to buy will now see that they have, a lot of weight, and I will make maximum profit. And in doing that, I never knew that I bought poisoned feed and gave them to, the fishes, and I lost all of them. They all died, right? Now, what that would have done to me was to push me out of the business, because one, if I had calculated the risk of me trying to, make maximum profit just, from one cycle of business, that wouldn't have happened. I would have done it like a normal way that I'm expecting. But because that resilience, in which is what is expected, for every entrepreneur to have, was there, that helped me to use other businesses, other, enterprises I'm engaged in, to cushion the losses that happen. So there are a lot of things that can make an entrepreneur to fall out of business. It's possible that maybe you did not calculate your market very well. Maybe you're into poultry farming. Yeah, I keep mentioning farming because that is like one field I'm vast in. So maybe you're into poultry farming and you feel your market is at Wuse market, not knowing that your market is at Maraba. Right? And then by the time you go to Wuse market and you're only able to sell two, you come back home, the rest dies because of the stress, of taking them to the market. At the end of the day, they all die. You only make money. You didn't even recover your capital. You cannot go back to the business, right? So many things, are associated with businesses and making entrepreneurs to lose money in the business. Yeah, I can go on and on and on and on and on to mention all of them.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, Mr. Chukwudi, we understand that you're a civil servant, and sometimes these government jobs, they don't pay on time. I don't know. I want to know, how do you manage? How do you cope when you don't get paid? Do you have something else to fall back to? I mean,
well,
how do you handle the challenges?
Well, I like the word you use sometimes. I like the word you use sometimes, because from the very first day I started working, I've not had that experience. Yeah, but I won't say that it doesn't happen either. So, just like when I said earlier, there's a clause in our rule, in our appointment letters. Once you get your appointment letter, the government allows you to do a specific kind of job if you want to, apart from your own job. They gave you an opportunity to actually invest in another business, which is agriculture. Our government has always been adamant. There has been strong advisors. They have been having big campaigns on agriculture. So as a civil servant, me personally, I'm surprised that the question, I wasn't surprised the question, I knew it was coming, but me as a person, I invested in fish farming. I was happy when he was talking about the fish farming, and the same experience he had, I had it one time. Okay. I did one time. So I invested in it because I had the opportunity. The government gave us the opportunity to actually invest in it. You can't be able to do any other business. Government won't let you do another business apart from agriculture. So, but at the end of the day, my salary comes though. I always get my salary on time, and I get it at when I was at when.
That's what is
very important.
Very important.
Yes.
Thank you both for your contribution so far. It's really been awesome having you in our studio. Okay, Mr. Chinedu, so what's your final take on this topic?
Yeah, I would say that I think entrepreneurs should be given, platforms to thrive on as far as Nigeria is concerned. Okay. Let the government provide the business-friendly environment and encourage young people to begin to think entrepreneurship. With that, our economy will see the light of the day.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Chukwudi, what's your final take on this topic?
I love the fact that we had the discussion. Government jobs is government jobs, and we can never do without entrepreneurship. These two things are actually the same thing. We are linked, so we can't go against each other. Without us, entrepreneurs won't thrive. Without entrepreneurs, we won't thrive. So we do everything possibly to make them successful. So basically, I'm happy we had this conversation. We'll go back and we'll bring what we can bring and do what we can do to make it work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you both for sharing your views on this topic. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it very much.
Entrepreneurs can change the way we live and work. If successful, their innovations may improve our standard of living. And in addition to creating wealth with their entrepreneurial ventures, they also create jobs and the conditions for a prosperous society. If you're in a job and need more flexibility or balance, don't assume entrepreneurship is the answer. And if you're in charge of a business, there is more to do because your cash is only what you sell. You are even more beholden to clients than in a traditional job. In entrepreneurial ventures, majority of the respondents prefer salary-paid job than to be an entrepreneur, while majority of respondents are into entrepreneurship because of lack of job. Therefore, getting a government job is like buying a newspaper. You can simply keep it with yourself for a long time. But having a successful business is like winning lottery tickets. Only two options are involved. It's either you gain or you lose. Meanwhile, both needs lots of hard work, as successful business needs more and more hard work, while government job needs hard work till passing exam. So viewers, this is how far we can go for this week's edition of Crossfire. We promise to bring another exciting topic when next will come your way. Until then, bye and God bless you.